welcome tonight to our Thoughtful Thursday. And as you know, each month we have a special guest who does some extraordinary work, either in our community or in the larger community or in the world. And today our guest is Gwendolyn Hooker, who is not unknown to us. She's been our guest before at the church, and we are so delighted to have you return to us, and especially today, which is a very big day because I do remember when you came to our church and you talked about the concept of these little houses, and today was the ribbon cutting because you've built three of them. So it's how dreams come true. Gwendolyn Hooker is a. I'm just gonna call you Gwendolyn. Is that okay? Okay.
Absolutely, yes.
All right. So Gwendolyn is a well-known um, person, leader in our community, and she's established Hope for now I
Hope through navigation.
that's it. Hope Thru Navigation. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
And then you co-founded JABS, which is Justice Against Bullying at School. And I will ask you about both of them. And Gwendolyn, here is what I'm. I do we have any new people here? Before we begin, let me just say this very quickly. So, will you share the donation screen, Deborah, please?
Yes.
We are so delighted to bring to you these special guests and to put on and invite these special guests and to put on this program. We have some expenses. And so we would love for you to donate if you can, if you want to. It is a lot more important for us that you attend. So if you can't donate, don't even worry about it. But if you can, we invite you to do it. It makes it possible for us to keep bringing to you um, speakers who will enrich your experience. And as you see, you can donate in many different ways. You can do it online. If you go to tinyurl.com, donate to UUCC. You can send a check um, to our church, or I don't know, send a pigeon, with a check attached to it. Whatever works for you. We'll take it. We'll take it. So, yeah, thank you so very much. Now, let's get back to Gwendolyn and to your work in our community. So, Gwendolyn, before we get to the little houses, um, we all know that everything begins up here. So, how did that come about up here that you would do this? And then, what was the path? And how jagged was it? I'm curious because I just have never seen anybody who just made up their mind and then it was like straight as an arrow and off to success you went.
Yeah, if only it were that easy. Um, so the first question, is the why, which is a great question. Thank you so much, everyone that's on today. Um, so really, the problem is that I serve people that have been impacted by the criminal justice system and or have a history of substance use disorder. And that's the population that Hope Through Navigation serves. And so in doing that, it became overly clear that, I had many, many clients that were sleeping, doubled up on somebody's couch or on their floor, sleeping in their car, in
So
K-PAP.
let me stop you just for a
Yes.
second. You had clients. So how did you even come in touch with these clients? Like I am curious about the beginnings.
Okay. So the beginnings, so we have a step. Well, first of all, we are hinged on outreach. So the whole thing about Hope Through Navigation is we go to the places where it's feasible that our population is going to be. So we go to drop-ins, we go to the mission, we go to shelters, um MLK Park, party, like anywhere we think that there's going to be a good idea, a possibility that people who have a criminal background or have a history of substance use are going to be, we go there. And so that's how we started building our clientele. That's initially. Over the years, we have established relationships with places like Drug Treatment Corps and Recovery Institute and Reach Sober Living, Urban Alliance, people that serve, that we have, our populations are very, very in alignment. So we serve some of the same populations of people. And so I started talking to them. And so we had a lot of people, all of us, all of our partners had people that were just struggling with housing, not because they didn't have jobs. Most of the people that we work with have jobs. They have good jobs because they get up, they go to work, and they work hard. And so when they come home from prison, they reestablish their life and they find jobs and they stay in those jobs. And the problem is that they make good money, but nobody would rent to them. Nobody would rent to them because they had a criminal background or they had something, or they were involved in a 12-step program. They were in the drug treatment court, and people just didn't wouldn't give them a chance. Didn't really want to rent to them for those two reasons. And so after a while, I was like, this is crazy. There's no way that we're supposed to have all these people that have jobs, good paying jobs, and people would not rent to them. And so I started out on a crusade of like, you know what? I'm going to build houses for the population that I serve. And that was kind of the seed that kind of started it. Of course, I started researching like how can I do this? Realistically, like what's the most affordable, easiest way to get some houses built as quickly as possible, which is how, we looked at container homes, we looked at stick built homes, we looked at tiny homes. And it just so happened um we tiny homes kind of stuck because Reverend Faith Fowler, who is the executive director of Cass Community Social Services in Detroit, had just written a book, Tiny Houses in a Big World. And it was just so ironic that I was like, let me reach out to her. I reached out to her and she was like, hey, I just wrote this book and I would love to come and meet you. And so we did a book signing for her in Kalamazoo, at the Foundry. That was in 2019. And from there, she started telling us about how she came up with this book. And that's when I found out that she had actually created a tiny house community in Detroit. And so when I heard that, I was like, okay, I need to go there. I need to see this. And so many of the people that went to that book signing were really interested in going to Detroit. So we all went on this field trip to Detroit and we seen the tiny house community firsthand, and it was absolutely amazing. The work that she's doing and continues to do, like she has a whole neighborhood of tiny houses. And so that's literally where the tiny houses of hope development project really just kind of started. We felt when we got back, we felt like, you know what, we could actually really do this. And so many of the people that went to Detroit that day, they make up the tiny house committee, and that committee has been with us since the very beginning. So the reason why, you know the road to this path, even to even starting the organization, was everything but straight. It was absolutely everything but straight because, you have a person of color, you have a woman, you have a person with been impacted by the criminal justice system that's in recovery. So I got four strikes, guys. Ordinarily, that's you're out. And so I refuse to say, accept that people, that are coming home don't deserve a second chance, that don't deserve affordable housing. And so I was not going to take no for an answer. I was not going to let people tell me that, you don't need to start an organization that just serves those people. You're never going to get any money for that. You know, um, and I at the groundbreaking in April, I told people, what, I eat no's for breakfast. I don't I don't take no's. I don't take no's for answers. If you tell me no, eat it, gone, and it's like it doesn't exist. Because if I would have listened to all the people that told me no, I would be probably in an insane asylum. People said I couldn't do this, I couldn't do that, I wasn't going to be this, I wasn't going to be that, and so I just learned at a very young age that, what people say doesn't have any direct effect on you, you know. And so whether people bully you, whether people treat you bad, whether they call you names, it's not about it's not about you, it's about something that they have going on with them. And so that's really what's gotten me through, a lot of hard times that I've had in my life is because, I always knew that I was worthy and that, I could do anything in between myself and my higher power. I believed that I could do anything that I set my mind to.
That is remarkable. Um, how long ago did you start Hope for navigation? Hope through navigation.
Yeah, so this in 2025 it will be our 10-year anniversary. June of 2025 will make 10 years.
So, what made you decide to start Hope through navigation?
So when I have a criminal background. When I came home from incarceration, there was no services available for for me. I needed to reunite with my kids. I needed a job. I needed a house. Um, I needed all of the fundamental things of restarting your life, and there was literally nothing available. There was no reintegration. Everybody talks about, yeah, they're going to go to jail and they're going to get rehabilitated. Well, that's not real. That's not real. Not only is it not real in jail, it's even worse when you come home because what happens is you're now on probation or parole. You have all of these stipulations. You got to find a job. You got to be in by 11. You got to do this. You got to do that. But they don't give you any resources to actually do it. And so it really is designed to increase the recidivism rate. It's not
Oh,
designed
horrible.
for people to be successful. It's
Hmm.
actually designed in a way
To help
for
you fail.
to
Hmm.
to to make people fail because I mean it's a multi-billion-dollar business. So, you can't have people coming out and not going back because, they're not gonna be successful. So,
Hmm.
and so even in the back of my mind when I came home, I did what I had to do gratefully. I had a great support system. I had a lot of, friends and family that genuinely, cared about me and helped me. I had somewhere to stay. I had food. I had the basics, and I just basically found a way, you know. But always in the back of my head, I was always thinking like, if this happened to me, what if it's somebody comes home that doesn't have a support system, doesn't have anywhere to live, doesn't know how to get a job? What happens to them?
Hmm.
And so I worked in nonprofit for 20 something years. I started out at Ministry of Community. I was a volunteer coordinator for there for many, many years. I went to Housing Resources. I worked for the Goodwill, the Kalamazoo Literacy Council. And overall through that time, 20 plus years later, there was still not an organization that exclusively served people with criminal backgrounds and substance use disorder history.
Hmm.
So 2016, I decided, you know what? It's still not here. I'm gonna go for it, So I filed my 501(c)(3). I worked at the Kalamazoo Literacy Council for about 2.5, 3 years. I resigned from them, and when I resigned from them, I walked right into my new job of at Hope through Navigation.
Wow. When did you get your degree? You got a scholarship.
I got
What a dream, huh?
I got a scholarship from the Kalamazoo Community Foundation
Uh-huh.
um, to be able to go to school for public affairs and administration with a minor in nonprofit. And I actually don't have my bachelor's degree yet. I have about 6 credits that I need to get. But honestly, things move so quickly. I thought that, I had time to kind of do Hope Through Navigation on the side and go to school, and Hope Through Navigation just kind of blew up. As soon as people found out that, we had an organization that was just going to serve people, the population that we serve, people just started coming. And to the point where, we didn't have really funding at that point. Um, and so my friends, my family, everybody was a donor. To the point where my family was like, I don't got no money. I'm gonna make them people some sandwiches and that's it. Like I really had, my family was my board, my volunteers, my they did it all. And eventually, um the Kalamazoo Community Foundation gave me my first Hope Through Navigation's first grant. Um they believed in
How long after you started?
uh, um about 6 months.
Wow.
And and
Because
that's
what a
another.
leap of faith it must have been to quit your job and then start that. Were you able to build up savings to help you through, or really just the family pulled together to make it happen?
I kind of thought it out a little bit. Um, and so I had some money. I was doing odd jobs because I do catering on the side. So I was making it. I was doing, and I do have a for-profit business which is called HMG. And so we do catering, we do sweet treats, desserts, baked goods, things like that. Um, so and this is after, I went to every funder in Kalamazoo. Um,
Mm.
and people, they didn't love the idea. Um, and the whole thing was to provide wraparound services and supports for people with criminal backgrounds and substance use disorder history. That was the whole premise. And everybody agreed that wraparound services, like that was wraparound services really just became a buzzword probably within the last three or 4 years.
What does it mean?
So wraparound services basically looks at the individual holistically and identifies all of the things that they likely need. And so we do a wraparound service intake. So we go off the assumption that the average person with a criminal background has more than one barrier, has more than one issue. And so we collectively provide whatever, we provide wraparound services for that individual. And the services and supports are individualized to that person. So we don't believe that everybody's going to have the same problems. That's why we do, an individualized intake, and then we apply whatever the services and supports that they identify, and then we remove those barriers that they self-identify as. Like we don't say, hey, you need to do this, you need to do that. You need a job, you need to stop using drugs, you need a job, you need to get some clean clothes. Da da da. Like we don't do that. We let people come to us or we come to them. They pretty much tell us like, the drugs are starting to be a problem. Do you got anything that can help me with that? Or, I can't find a job. They keep turning me down, or I can't get to my job. I got a job, but I don't have a car, or, I have problems with transportation. And those are the things like we provide bus tokens, we provide gas cards. If you have a card and just don't have the money to get the gas, we provide work clothes. So if you need steel-toed boots, haircut, like we provide full wraparound services and supports for the population that we serve, whatever that may be, and it looks different for each individual.
I think that is so remarkable because, well, just like the rest of us, we all have very specialized needs. Also, we see ourselves in unique ways,
Mm,
and services often want to force a round peg into a square hole,
hmm.
and then there's the mystery of why those services fail.
Yeah.
And here you are, you have figured it out, and you have the sense about to do it, the courage to do it, and the wisdom to do it differently.
Hmm.
So what is your success rate?
So we do two things. So we do on-site wraparound services and support. So those are the immediate need things. Those are like, a person needs bus tokens, they need hygiene items, they need like emergency crisis services. So that's what we provide when we do pop-ups. When we go to places like MLK Park or Polar Bear, which is a liquor store, the drop-in. We provide services. When we pop up, we provide services, whether it's bus tokens, whatever. And so that success rate, is based on how many people that we serve, and we know that when we go there, we serve people and we provide a service. We do that at least 12 times out of it. We do that at least once a month. So, and 9 times out of 10, we're going to serve at least 15 people. So 15 times 12 is kind of like our crisis services. When you talk
Mm-hmm.
about the wraparound services and supports that we follow, which are people that are in one of our entry houses, or so we have a reentry home, that's a recovery home for men. We have a growth and development youth center for that have been impacted by bullying or gun violence. And then we have, obviously, we have the tiny homes that we don't have people in yet. Um, but our success rate is 82% based on, the people that come either interface with us long term. And when we say long terms, it's 90 days to 24 months. We
Mm-hmm.
follow people at least for 24 months, but they can get services in perpetuity.
Mm-hmm.
We realize that people that have a criminal background or the disease of addiction, they are going to have that with them for the rest of their life. And so if you are a Hope Through Navigation client, you're eligible for services as long as there's a Hope Through Navigation. So we don't say, well, if you got services from us, you can't get any more services until, next year, or eventually you just
Mm-hmm.
don't, you're not eligible for services. Um, we find that a lot of times we've helped somebody, that was doing really well. They started their own trunking company, then they got a divorce. The wife took half, and they got stuck having to start over, their whole business. And so they needed some support, and so we jumped in and we helped them out. Um, those are the kind of cases, like, if we were just like, yeah, we can't help you, we've already helped you, we helped you, with your first month's written deposit, furnished your house, whatever it is. Like, we know that life happens, and when life happens to some people, to the average person, they're able to have a little bit of savings, they're able to, at least maintain. When life happens to someone with a criminal background, it's not that easy to regroup. Most of the people that have a criminal background and they get a good job, they stay there because it's so hard to find a good job. Same with housing. When a person finally finds a house that is affordable, that they like, that is working for them, they're not going to move because it took too much, it was so hard to find that house in the first place. Like,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to treasure that house, they're going to take care of that house, they're going to pay their rent because they don't want to have to go through that process all over again.
Mm. Remarkable. So, listen, you start Hope Through Navigation.
Mhm.
It's you.
Mhm.
You get your first grant. What happens next? You say we. What is how many staff do you have? How soon did you start hiring staff?
Yeah.
Where did you find more funding?
Okay. So, the first thing is that there wasn't any staff. For the first for the first 2 years, I was the staff. I had a lot of volunteers, because and I don't do things traditionally. Maybe you might have guessed, but um so I my goal is to use as much of the money, much of the funding that we get to go into services and programs and supports for the population that we serve. And
Mm-hmm.
so for the first couple of years, I was the staff because it's not they weren't I wasn't getting funding to the point where I could actually afford to have more than myself as a staff and be able to do the programs and provide the services that I wanted to do. So I worked like a dog, but I actually provided services and supports to a lot more people. I've done every single job that I now have staff for. I've done office management, I've done outreach, I've done marketing, I've done graphics, I've I've done everything. So when I started hiring people, I tell them, like, I did 6 jobs in one. So I know you can do this one job without, I know you can do this one job because I did all 6 of them sometimes at the same time. So um I didn't start getting funded to the point where I could actually afford to hire people probably until like the third year. By the
Mm-hmm.
third year, I really had kind of proven myself. I had gotten enough, services and supports to people. Um, had started working at the Vine Neighborhood Association, had set up my own office. And then, people started taking me seriously. The foundation was like, she's actually, yeah, she's doing it. And so they gave me a grant big enough to be able to hire um two people. So I hired an administrative, I hired an office manager and I hired an outreach person because outreach and, we're all about outreach. And so that gave me some time enough to concentrate more on writing grants because I had somebody answering the phones and directing things. And then I had somebody doing outreach. Um, and so that was kind of the beginning of when we started stepping off. Now, we have four full-time staff and we have three part-time. So we have,
Wow, remarkable.
thank you. Thank you.
Now, at this point, are you also involved with JABS, which is again justice against bullying at school?
Yes. So,
Or how is that part of your life right now? Or tell us about that.
so jabs, and I don't, so the way that jabs started, I'll just say, first of all, bullying is, I'm very passionate about anti-bullying.
Hmm.
I stood up for a friend that was disabled, that had a disability when I was in middle school, ended up getting my arm broken for it. And so from that point forward, I've just been an advocate for, not picking on people that don't look the same as you. Whether it's because you're black, you're white, you're short, you're tall, you're fat, you're skinny, don't do it. And
Hmm.
so if I'm anywhere, I started just standing up for people. And once I got my arm broke, but that person knew they were in a fight. And so people were like, that girl is crazy. Leave her alone. So people knew, like, don't say that stuff and don't talk about people when I'm around because I'm gonna advocate for them. Fast forward, um, my granddaughter is the co-founder of Jabs, as am I. Justice, ironically enough, is her name. Ended up Northeastern Elementary. She was in the third grade. She got beat up pretty bad from a boy on the playground at Northeastern Elementary. Two black eyes, broke nose, just not good. And so um we looked for somewhere for her to go, like a self-help group or a club or somewhere where she could go where other kids were at that she could talk to them and kind of someone that had been through the same thing. Um it didn't exist.
Nothing.
And so she said, "Well, Gigi, why don't we just make our own?" And so
Story of your life.
that's what I
Story of your
did.
life.
Yeah, that's what I did. So Jab started, and what I ended up doing later is, so now a lot of the kids that are part of Jabs are youth that have been bullied because they have a mom or a parent out of the household because of drugs, or they have a mom or dad out of the household because they're incarcerated and they're being bullied because they don't have the nice shoes, they don't have this, they don't have that. And so that's how I umbrellaed it under the Hope Through Navigation umbrella. So it is the youth initiative of Hope Through Navigation. Um, we have a youth advisory team. We have youth staff. So I'm kind of the overseer. But it's basically run by youth, it's for youth. They have their own budget, they have their own thing that they do. They're very, very involved in anti-gun violence initiatives. They work with Moms Demand Action. They are advocate at the Capitol. Um, they do a Jabs Awareness Month every June. But they basically everything is laid out. So there's not really much that I have to do there. As far as day to day, it's taken care of. I pop up if it's an event or it's something where they need me for something, but that's not part of my day to day anymore, which is great
Hmm.
because it's really kind of taken off on its own and it really could be its own nonprofit. um I don't know if that's something that they want to do, but it's really blossomed into something that's really kind of grown its own legs,
Mm. So you laid good foundation there with Gigi.
I would say.
So we're back to hope through navigation,
Mhm.
and so now you are getting a little bit more support. You have grown some legs. You're getting acknowledged in the community. Um, I do have, and I want to get to like how many houses you have built, who is eligible into applying to move into them, and so on and so forth. But I have another question before that. You say you eat no for breakfast and lunch and dinner.
Mhm.
Um, where does that come from? Like, how do you really face all that rejection and then still find the backbone, the inspiration, and the grit to carry on?
Hmm. That's a great question. I would attribute it to the way I was raised. Um, just a family that, we are very family orientated. We're very strong. We tackle every problem as a family unit. And we've never come up against something that, we don't give up. We just keep fighting for whatever it is. I just I am a resilient person based on my life, my life circumstances. My life made me have to be strong, to not be able to, sometimes I had to stand up for myself because there was nobody around to do it. Not because, I didn't have a family, but because they weren't right there at that time. Um, I've definitely had some childhood traumas in my life that have made me strong because I had to be strong. And so with that, I think something in me, just started growing. And at first I knew it was there, but I didn't know how to activate it. But I knew there was something in me that was like, I don't have to settle for that. I don't like that. I'm not gonna tolerate that. But I didn't have the voice yet to say it. But as I got older, and I started seeing my family and my aunts and my mom and my grandma and my great grandma, and they were saying, "Yeah, I don't like that. I don't gotta do that." They were saying the same thing that I was thinking. I'm like, "Hey, she said that. I can say that." And so it was a little seed that kind of just grew. And then I watched, my great grandmother. At one point, we had six generations alive. So I had my great grandmother, my grandma, my mom, me, my daughter. All alive obviously at one time, and it was a pattern that we all had, like this no nonsense, don't take no for an answer type of attitude. And it's really made the difference in a lot of the trials and tribulations that we've had to face. My aunt got diagnosed with um triple negative her breast cancer in July, which,
Oh, so
yeah.
that's bad.
And that's the first person in our family that I actually ever was like close to, that I watched this. Like, we went to all the appointments, we did all the chemo. She has one more chemo next week, is her last one. She had a physical exam last week, and the doctor said that they can't even feel the tumor anymore. It's so
Wonderful.
small that they can't even feel it.
All
So
right.
she goes to the MRI, and then she goes to the surgeon, does that surgery, and has radiation. And I mean, it was tough. It was tough, but we showed up every week for 12 weeks, all in pink, going to that chemo infusion center, going to the doctor, going to the lab, and going up and getting that infusion. All of us for 12 weeks. So we come as a team. So I guess it's in my DNA.
Yeah. So you really are there for each other. Very strong
Yes,
support
absolutely.
system. Yeah. Um. All right. So you've developed these wraparound services. Um. Obviously, men and women. And then you mentioned that. At what point did you establish the safe house? The um. What did you call it? The
For
Sherry. The
for the kids, for the youth, or
for the adults. You
yeah,
said you have a
yeah, we have a recovery and resiliency
that's it. Hmm.
center. Um, and we started that in 2020, right before COVID.
Okay.
And it was a blessing. It was a blessing and a curse because it just so happens that because of the desegregation order of people that were in jail, um, we were able to get more funding because they were letting people out of jail and prison that didn't have nowhere to go. Like they were just
Mm-hmm.
saying, "Hey, come on, you're free. Hey, come on, you're literally." And so people were just like they were homeless before they went to prison or went to jail. And so now they're like super homeless amidst a pandemic. And so we were able to get more funding than we ever would have been able to get because of COVID. And so we were able to really kind of build the foundation of our reentry home. We call it the R&R, and as well as be able to help people that were coming home be able to get first month's rent and deposit so that they
Mm-hmm.
could move into their own homes because it was, well, it was a mess. And so
Mm-hmm.
that started in 2020 and it's been going ever since. And it's
How
up
many people?
have come through there. Okay, so
Uh-huh.
um 2, 4, 6. So there's it's 6 people at a time and they can stay for up to a year. So
Mm-hmm.
every person, we've had a 94% success rate. Almost every person that's come through the R&R has left successfully. And when we
Hmm.
say successfully, that means that the first 90 days they worked the recovery program. After that, they got a job. And then after 12 months they left and they either moved into their own house or they bought a house or they moved in with their significant other, and so those are success stories
Mm-hmm.
out of that
And
whole time.
it's for men and women.
Correct.
Yeah.
For that whole time we've only had 4 people not make it. So these are a
Oh.
lot of times people we get referrals from drug treatment court, which is very helpful. We get referrals from KPEP, which is Kalamazoo Public Enhancement Program.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we get direct referrals from MDOC, Michigan Department of Corrections, but which is helpful. But a lot of times the main people that didn't make it were referrals from Michigan Department of Corrections because they they didn't want to be there. They came there because they were basically designated to go there. They didn't come there just free on their own. And that makes a difference. If people are saying like you got to go there, you got to stay clean, you can't do drugs, people normally don't respond that way.
Mm-hmm.
And so those are the folks, the people that didn't make it were just not ready for recovery. So
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. So you have that going too.
got
Still,
a lot going on.
you have a lot going. Yeah. We do realize that you have a lot of plates up in the air, and then you get this idea. You get this idea with the tiny houses, and what sort of resistance did you encounter? And we know you succeeded, and I know that you have bigger plans, but in ratio, how was the resistance to the encouragement, to the support?
Well, in my mind, I got more encouragement than I got resistance. I don't know if that's true or not. um I just block it out. Like really I really don't pay much attention. Like if you're not saying what I want to hear, I don't hear you. Like I just can't take a lot of I cannot take a lot of time just to deal with people in their opinions and their, you know, I just so there were real things that happened, right? A pandemic happened. That was problematic, obviously. Um Also, I had lots of offers of doing this project, getting this project fully funded if I didn't serve those people. Um,
Who would it
People,
be for then?
yeah, the people that don't need it. Like, people did not like the ideal of this population of people having the opportunity to be the first ones to get brand new tiny houses. um like those are like a unique thing that those people shouldn't get the chance to have first, type of a situation. And so that just made me work harder at getting marble countertops and heated bathroom floors. Like, I don't care what you're saying, like, come on. So Meanwhile, we have marble countertops and heated bathroom floors. Like people tell me no, that just gives me the ammunition to continue forward. If I am standing on something that I truly believe is right, there's nothing that can move me. Um I just I think everybody has an opinion, and I listen to people's opinions. I started developing houses. I did not know nothing about building houses. So I asked an expert, Maddie Jordan Woods. She's built grocery stores, houses, apartments on the north side for 30 something years. So I asked her to help me, you know, and so I watched her and did when she said move, I said how far. I like everything she did, I did because I knew that if I did what she did, I was going to be successful. And so the people that have encouraged me and cheered me on and helped me along the way, those are my people. You know, Unitarian Universalists are my people. You guys know from day one, you believed in the dream that I had. You didn't just support me in words. You supported me with funding. You supported me with these beautiful quilts that you guys just donated to these tiny houses. Like from the very beginning, I came and did a mingo. I've been like, there's people that have helped um in ways that I can never repay. And those are it's more valuable than money, because I didn't know if I was gonna, I didn't know how long it was gonna take. I just knew I was gonna do it. And people at your church, at UU said, you know what? We can help you. This is what we can do. You can come out here and talk. You can like it's those kind of things that give me the encouragement to block out the no's. Um, and there was way more people saying this is a great ideal, this will work. Don't let anybody tell you it won't. Everybody's worthy of affordable homes. um i I felt like I heard that more. There's some people that are in positions of power that were very problematic. And you know i I just figured out a workaround. um I did some work for John Hoadley's office. He was the state representative. Um,
Mhm.
and so I used to work with the governor. Um, when John Hoadley ran for Congress, Melissa Fish was turned out to be his campaign manager. And so I took her job over while she was on a political leave. So while she was doing that, I was hobnobbing with all the people in Lansing, finding out
Girl,
about the
you must have
governor,
energy up the wazoo too.
working with the governor and the state elected officials. And so, when people talk about, oh, well, everybody has a boss, they do. And I start at the top, I work my way down. I don't start at the bottom and work my way up because it just takes too much time. So,
Mhm.
when people were giving me problems, in various parts of the government, I just called Lansing. I'm like, listen, can you help me out with this? Oh, sure, I'll put a phone call in. And so a lot of the ways got kind of smoothed over because I wasn't asking for things that were unreasonable. I was asking for equitable outcomes for the population of people that I serve, you know, and it's indisputable, and so eventually when people figured out that, you know what, it doesn't matter what we tell this lady, she's not going anywhere and she's not taking no for an answer. So we might as well just like help her. And so people just started actually just kind of like, even if they didn't help, they just moved out of my way, which is fine. You
Which
know,
is how.
yeah, which just helps still.
Hmm.
And so it ended up being okay. A lot of things took a little bit longer than they really needed to
Hmm.
because people were just, oh, you got to do this and sending me around in circles. And so when I figured out that they were sending me around in circles, then I just went to their boss and I'm like, listen, how am I supposed to do this? Because I've been doing this for 2 weeks going around in circles and I'm still exactly where I was. And
Mm.
then they were like, "Oh yeah, we'll just, send that over and I'll get it signed." Boom, done.
Mm.
So,
Amazing.
Yeah.
So how did you come up with the funding for the tiny houses?
Well, the first way I came up with it was doing tiny mingles for shingles, which the mingles for shingles, I did one at your church. I think you were on a medical. But I did them everywhere. I had a steering committee, and the steering committee went out and found places that we could go and talk about the tiny houses. They would invite their friends over, their church, whatever the case may be. We would talk about the tiny houses, and people would donate money, $10 here, $5 here, whatever it was. And we ended up raising $87,000 just from doing tiny mingles for shingles. And then, so that kind of started us off. That got us like to be able to do some printing and be able to do some basic things. And then I finally went and got a grant from uh the Kalamazoo County Millage, um, money, dollars, the city
Mm-hmm.
of Kalamazoo
Mm-hmm.
and LISC are the primary funders for the tiny house project. Um, and the obviously the our community members that donated um in the beginning. So, and I forgot George Franklin. George Franklin was the person that gave us the money to buy the land. So, um
So I don't know who George Franklin is.
if you well he's an author, but he used to work for Kellogg. And he was the chief financial officer for Kellogg.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he if you Google him, he writes books, but he's very involved in drug treatment courts across the country. And one of his best friends is Judge Schmay, which Judge
Mm-hmm.
Schmay is the father of drug court in Kalamazoo County, which is how
Okay.
I knew him because I'm one
Mm-hmm.
of the first women to successfully graduate drug treatment court.
Oh,
So me and Judge Smay and George Franklin are very close. And so when I came up with this crazy idea of building tiny houses for convicts, they were like, "Oh yeah, we're in." So so George
wow.
Franklin, he came up with he just I told him about it. He was like, "Yeah, I'll call me next week. I'll have you a check." And wrote the check
And you bought the land.
and bought the land. Yep.
Fantastic.
Yep.
Who is eligible to apply for these tiny houses, and what is it that they have to contribute to live in them?
So, people that are eligible are people that meet our demographic. So they have to have been impacted by the criminal justice system in some way in their lifetime. It doesn't have to be like you're coming out of jail. Um, Somebody that's precariously housed that is has that criminal background, um, and or impacted by substance use disorder history. But you have to be active in a 12-step program. So you have to be active in a 12-step program, and you have to and or been impacted by the criminal justice system. You have to have a job, you have to be able to pay the rent. Um
How do you determine the rent?
the rent is $1 a square foot. So those homes are 410 square feet. So the rent is $410 and plus utilities. Just FYI, the current rate square foot right now is $200 per square foot. So
Wow.
if it was based on,
Mm-hmm.
everybody else's
Mm-hmm.
metrics, those houses would be
Okay.
considerably more because the going rate in the construction world, in the development world, is $200 per square foot.
Wow.
And
That's
we're
that's how
charging
they determine the rent.
mhm,
Wow.
$1 a
Crazy.
square foot.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So um so they got to be able to pay the rent. And we today was the first day that we publicly that the application was ever available for to sign up. And so we took applications on site. People came there, people took, and so we are waiting from the city of Kalamazoo to get our permit for rental occupancy. We're hoping to get that by next week. And if so, we hope to have people in those homes as soon as we possibly can. We have a snag. Um, we cut a lot of costs in the houses to get them built, so there's no appliances in them.
Okay.
So we are. begging, literally, um, for appliances, for help with appliances. And we will likely do them one at a time because as soon as we are able to either get the funding for them or to someone that can donate them, we're gonna just put them in there and we're gonna put the person in there. So I'm hoping we got a lot of donations today. Um, we got a lot of connections on people that are willing to help support. And so I'm confident that we're gonna get we're gonna get at least one set of appliances for one house. So we'll be able to get those in set up. So by the time that we have our occupancy, we'll have a tenant and we're gonna put them right in there.
Hmm. Hmm.
Easy peasy.
And
Easy
and
peasy
then
lemon squeezy.
and so this is for individuals. It's not really for families.
No.
It's too small for that.
Hmm.
Yeah. Wonderful. Wonderful. So this is the time where I open it up for questions from our participants. Gwendolyn, you okay with that?
Absolutely. I would love to talk to them.
Yeah. All right. So we have
Hi
some people. Yeah,
everyone.
we have some people here who actually worked on the quilts.
Are there?
Marsha,
Oh,
Kathy, Pat.
we had them
Uh,
displayed in the houses that they go in, and it's so crazy because nobody knew the colors of the houses. Like I knew the colors, I picked the colors, but the there's three quilts, and there's a quilt that matches each one of the houses. We had a brown one, and we put it in the Garnett house. We had a green one, we put it in the Franklin house, and we had a blue one, and we put it in the Autumn Kelly house. And they all matched the quilts. I'm like, that is the Holy Spirit because there's no way that they would know what color to do these quilts. So, and they're so beautiful. People were like, "Where can I buy these from?" I'm like, "Huh, I can't tell you."
so the three, Stephanie, did you work on them too? Did you work on the quotes as well, Stephanie?
Oh, heck no.
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 So it
I
was
was
Pat,
just, I was just
actually
doing some research.
Marsha here, Kathy, and anybody else in here worked on them. That's it. So we have two people for sure who worked on them,
They
and
people love
it was
them.
a true labor of love. Beautiful labor of love.
They are beautiful. I'm like when you hear of a quilt, you're like, "Oh, a quilt, yeah, that's nice." But when you see them, you're like, "Wow, these are nice." Like I was so amazed at the just the intricate work done on them. I was like,
Oh,
"Wow."
there were no corners cut. I tell you
No,
that.
I mean these would look like professionally done.
They are.
I'm like, "Woo." Yeah, people
Uh-huh.
love them. I got so many questions. We did our flyer. We added the added your guys' logo on the program just and
Aw.
made people ask like, "Oh, well, what did they like how are you associated with Unitarian?" I'm like, "Oh, well, the quilts in there were made by, women in their
Mhm.
church." And they donated them to the residents, and they were like, "These are beautiful." So you may get some phone calls because they were trying to snag my quilts. I'm like, make sure you pack those up and put them back in the car before you.
We'll make a name for ourselves somehow.
Well, you're well on your way for quilts, I'll tell you that.
Eric, you have a question or a comment?
Yeah, thanks so much for speaking with us tonight, Gwendolyn. I
Absolutely.
was curious, it sounds like not to be looking towards the future and not acknowledging all the stuff you've done right now with the tiny houses, but I was hearing that you're going to have some maybe more wraparound services for the tiny houses. That's the next phase. And then maybe even more tiny houses across the street. Is that kind of the long range plan or?
Absolutely. So so in front of the houses where they are, the wraparound building is gonna go there. We are 95% there as far as our funding. So we're gonna start those probably early spring, if not sooner. Like Um, we're ready to go on those. The wraparound services building will be done. Um, and then across the street, it's gonna look exactly like they're gonna mirror each other. So there'll be a commercial building on the front, and then the tiny houses will be on the back. So we'll have six on the north side. The long term, the 3-year plan is to have 24 tiny houses. So we want to have six tiny house, six houses of hubs. So we're gonna go to the Vine neighborhood, and put six over there, and then we'll go to the east side, and then to Edison. And so the way that we're identifying the order is based on the highest concentration of the population that we serve. So the north side makes up the highest concentration, and then it's the Vine neighborhood. We're looking at sites now, um, and then Edison, or I'm sorry, East Side, and then Edison. So yes, I eventually, when it's all said and done, we'll have 24 tiny houses and two commercial buildings, and we'll have satellite sites, satellite wraparound sites on each hub. So, our headquarters will be on the north side because that's where our population is, but also we'll have satellite wraparound site centers so that people that live at the tiny houses, wherever they're at, they can get their services there, or they can come to the headquarters and get them.
And what are the commercial buildings about?
Yep. So the one commercial building on the first site is our wraparound services and supports building. That would be H.O.P.E. Thru Navigation's ground zero. That will be where our offices are. Across the street, it's going to be our property management office. We'll have some rental office space for small entrepreneurs. And then the tiny houses will be in the back.
Okay. Nikki.
Yeah, I had read a few years back that you were also going to be building tiny homes for victims of domestic violence and families. Is that still in the works, or was that just an article I read that wasn't correct?
Yeah, so we don't have it's a great question, but we don't. So what we do is try to stay in our lane. And so we don't, I mean, if someone has a criminal background and or substance use disorder history that has been impacted by domestic violence, absolutely. But we're not building homes exclusively for folks that have been impacted by domestic violence, because there's other people that do that. We are really trying to make sure that the population that we serve has affordable, safe, clean housing. So I'm not sure about, I know I've heard some discussions about tiny houses or small homes, just because they're affordable, they're quick builds. Um, so it's definitely, it could have been an article, but it wasn't about us.
Okay.
Marsha. And you're muted right now. Still muted.
I know.
There you go.
I
There
know.
you go.
I gotta press the right buttons here. I am totally amazed at what you as an individual have accomplished. I just absolutely am in awe.
Oh, thank you. I
Yeah,
appreciate that. Thank you.
yeah, you're a one person miracle. My daughter had a history of criminal background history. And her issue was finding employment.
Mm.
She had family support. She had a place she could stay with us, whatever. But it was employment for her. Is there anything you do to help individuals who are in that trough, if you will?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the first thing is, the answer is yes. And so if you look at our logo, there's 4 things that we really drill down on for the population. So it's employment, it's education, it's housing, and it's recovery. And so as far as the employment piece goes, we provide the wraparound services. We partner with Urban Alliance, who has the Momentum program. And for the tiny houses, we're going to be doing, so we believe that people that have been impacted by criminal background, the criminal justice system, like, we believe that they have a skill, they have a hustle, they have something that they can do, that if we could nourish it and teach them how to make that into a business, that they could probably, be a small business owner. And so we really want to be able to have people be self-employed. So the goal of the tiny house program is entrepreneurship and home ownership. We are really trying to encourage people to build generational wealth by buying homes and by starting their own businesses. And so we really have a strong um, training component that's associated with the tiny house project and the participants, because we really want to folks to be able to feel like, you know what, if somebody doesn't hire me, I can, I don't have to depend on somebody else to hire me. Like I can hire
Mhm.
myself. I went through a tough time, and when I said, you know what, my goal isn't to sign the back of the check anymore. My goal is to sign the front of the check. So I don't want to have to work for anybody. I want to be able to write my name on the front. And so that way I don't have to worry about whether or not you hire me because of my criminal background. And that's the
Mhm.
mindset that the I want everybody to have. Like they've been beat down so bad about what they can't do and this, that, and the third. And the reality is that nine probably 90% of the people that I've met, they're artists, they're cooks, they're barbers, they're carpenters. They know how to do something. And
Mhm.
they know how to do something good enough that if they could learn how to set up a LLC and learn some financial literacy, they could have their own business and not have to worry about it. So that's the goal, is to create
Mhm.
entrepreneurs.
Brilliant. That's amazing. Yeah.
Thank
Mhm. Marsha, go for it.
you.
You say you have employees. How do you use your volunteers now?
So we do a couple of uh we do a lot of outreach. So we pass out Narcan and naloxone fentanyl testing strips. We do that at least twice a month. So volunteers help us do that. We do a lot of pop-up events. We participate in a lot of our partners events, like we table at other people's events, the Recovery Institute, Urban Alliance. And so a lot of times we utilize our volunteers in that way, also answering phones, sending thank you cards. It's very individualized. Like if someone says they want to volunteer, we ask them, what do you like to do? Whatever you like to do, we gotta find something for you to do and do that, because I mean, if you're a person that just has a couple hours a day that you want to just get out the house and come and answer the phones, or sit in the Hope closet so people can pick through some of our clothes and pick out something for a job interview, whatever the case may be. Like, we started out on volunteerism, like that's how we're here today. And so we love volunteers. We used to work with the School of Social Work because I was at Western, and Don Cooney was the professor over the School of Social Work, and so we got a lot of volunteers that way, which are also young people that are trying to go into the field. And so it was really a perfect marriage of, we they needed us and we needed them, and they got some skills working with the population that they probably wouldn't have gotten firsthand. And so we love volunteers. If you want to come and help, I can email you an application.
Mhm. You probably should anyway. Yes. Go ahead, Deborah.
You can certainly say you don't want to answer this question because it may be out of the scope. It's not specifically to what you're doing, but you're so inspiring. And I feel like we're looking at a time where potentially um, there may be a lot of services cut,
Mhm.
and that we may have to be working more local and more state and really helping each other if things go the way they might go. And so I'm just wondering if you see that potentially, that there's going to be more of a need for the kinds of work you're doing, and if you have any words of inspiration on how we can organize to help provide services that may be cut.
Yeah. So, I mean, leadership at the federal level has not had any secrets about their objective. And so, um, there shouldn't be any surprises about what their agenda is. Um, and so even before that So I always believe that a nonprofit, it has to be self-sufficient at some point, which is why it's so important for us to have property. So it's so important for us to not be 100% dependent on grants because, you know, grants don't always, like, people change what their priorities are, what they fund, da 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 da. One thing about it, we know that the criminal justice system is a multi-billion dollar, you know, system. And so I feel fairly confident that I'll have a job for a while, which is unfortunate because I try to work myself out of a job. Um,
Mhm.
but the reality is that, the reality is we'll probably have more people needing services and supports, more people going to jail, more people going to prison, more people on drugs, because, the priorities that the sane common sense citizen, um that's, a human, cares about people having housing, um cares about people having services and supports to address their addictions, cares about people that, need, whatever the case may be, services and supports related to their healthcare. Um, the average human being cares about those things. And when you have someone that doesn't, it's pretty scary. And so it's important, if you have a group of people that are like-minded, to organize around issues that you feel are important, and then make sure that you come up with a plan, because you're going to need a plan. That's just inevitable. And so to wait to see what happens, we already know what's going to happen because they've already told us what's going to happen. So coming up with a plan now is a good idea, whatever that may be, looking at issues that are close to the church, and really talking about how can we support, whether it's housing, whether it's youth, whatever it is, and just coming up with what that looks like, because people are gonna need some help,
Yeah.
you know.
I feel like you should write a book on how this is how I did it, but I have a feeling it comes down to your power of personality and strength of character. You're very inspirational, and I
Oh, thank you. I
what an
Thank you.
inspiration. Yeah.
I appreciate that so much. I really do. It just I it doesn't I don't know. I don't know how I got to be I don't know how I got to be like this, but I think that people just need to know that, a lot of the things that we hear and that we see, here on the radio, and things that people say, they're just lies. Like, we grew up thinking that we had to fight for everything because there wasn't enough for everybody. And come to
Mhm.
find out, there's more than enough for everybody. Like, there's more than what any of us could ever use. But it's the law of scarcity because people create these narratives that push the agenda that they want. So, you have to research, and you have to look out. Like, you can't just take people's words for things anymore. You have to actually look for yourself and find out for yourself. And so my mom made me read a book a week. um from the time that I knew how to read, I had to read a book a week. I had to write a one-page report on it. That was didn't have nothing to do with school. So I read books, and I learned at a very early age, like, if you don't know the answer, look for the answer. Don't just take somebody else's word for the truth, because there's no way that you're gonna know if it's the truth or not. So, um, I think probably my biggest advantage, as a child, was that I read, and my mom exposed me to things that the average little black girl wasn't getting exposed to. Like, I played clarinet, I played the drums, I marched in a band. Like, I did a lot of things that, you know, and I didn't come from a rich, affluent family,
Mhm.
um, but there were things like my mom thought it was important to go to the library to make sure that, I had nice shoes, and it didn't matter if they were brand new, but they were always polished and they looked like they were new. And so really taught me, to be proudful about whatever you have, and to take care of what you have, and, to just be a overall good human being.
Mhm. Mhm. You
Thank
know, at the very beginning, you said something that you always knew that you were worthy. Um, I think that's, I don't know if that's the word you used.
Mhm.
And Brene Brown, I don't know if you're familiar with Brene Brown. She's look her up anyway. So she says that people who know that they're worthy of belonging um, are the ones who um, are are more able um,
Hmm.
to create and be successful and be a force of nature like yourself, worthy of belonging. And
Mm.
you know that in spades. And
Thank you.
mhm,
I appreciate that.
anyone? Yeah, Eric.
Well, I'm curious. I mean, you have such a um, connection to community, but what, how does empathy play in your life and compassion as a place for motivation? Or I'm just curious, maybe that's just natural and you don't even think about that. Maybe that's just in your DNA that you act, but I'm just curious.
Mm, well, I would say maybe it wasn't always natural. Um, like I said, I'm a recovering addict. One of the things about the 12-step program that I'm in, is that they say you can only keep what you have by giving it away, which means that if you want the benefits of what this program has given you, which is another chance, you have to share it with other people. And so we believe that you don't promote um recovery. Like you don't try to beat people in the head with it because we might be the only book that somebody ever gets a chance to read. So we act like we're in recovery. Like people should be able to tell the life that we're living by looking at us. We shouldn't have to tell them anything. You know, I ran these streets with many of the people that I now serve sandwiches and give testing strips to. And so I don't have to tell them like, oh, you need to get your life together and they can look at me and say, dang, I am the hope. I'm a walking hope billboard because you know what? I'm the same person that was, getting high and doing all of the things that I was doing in the streets. Um, and now I'm still, I'm here now as a brand new person, made in the image of my higher power to know that, I don't have to tell them anything because they see me at my worst and they're seeing me at my best, and it's not like I'm any different than they are. Like if you want what I have to offer, you have to do what I did, and the first thing is that you have to want to do it, as bad as people want to make people stop using drugs and make people not want to do crimes. Like it just doesn't work that way. You can send somebody back and forth to prison over and over, and you can send people into rehabs all day long, and until they're ready to stop getting high and stop going to jail, they're not going to do it. And so I have a heart for the people that I'm a part of, because I know the trials and tribulations. I know what it's like to want to do something different but not know how, you know, and I just try to show up for people, even if they don't think that they need somebody to show up, because I didn't all the time think that, oh, I needed, somebody to give me a sandwich or whatever, but I sure appreciated it when they did, so
Mhm.
just having the compassion to know, like, human beings have gotten a rough start, we can talk to Eve about that, but the bottom line is that we're imperfect people, and we have a lot of things to contend with that are not our fault. The fentanyl crisis, um, all of these issues that really are designed because out of greed, you know, and because everybody is so money hungry, they're willing to jeopardize everything, you know, even if it sacrifices people's lives. And we see that playing out right now. You know, my thing is that, and I don't want to get into this political hemisphere, but I'm going to say this, I'm going to leave it alone. You know, the United States of America was built on the backs of black and brown people. And it's sad to say that if you if you don't accept that, right? Then you're not willing to put a black woman as president. Now
Sure.
think about that. Now, if you know that the atrocities of crimes that was committed against black and brown people, and you have a more than capable woman as a president, and you vote for an imbecile, what does that say about our country? That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, honey, we're with you.
We're with you.
That's all I'm going to say. But, it's a privilege and a pleasure to always, I love having the opportunity to talk to my people, because you guys say that I'm inspiring, but it's just inspiring to see people, that are just so caring and loving and just pure, just to want to do what's good for people. And it's so unusual to find just good human beings.
Oh, you.
It's just so hard to find good human beings that I'm glad to know that I'm around some,
Well, please always come to us if you have if you can think of ways in which we can step in. Just let us know, and maybe we can come up with ways that you wouldn't have thought of it. But think of us definitely as people in your corner and resources, and we're proud of you, pulling for you, and willing to partner in ways small or big as we can.
I appreciate that so very
And
much.
if you're making 24 houses, Kathy, we need 24 quilts.
There you go.
We can
Catch
do
up,
this, and
catch up.
we would be proud to do that.
Well, actually, you only need
Mhm.
21 because I got 3 already.
Oh,
That's
21.
right.
Well, we're gonna make you one too.
No
Please do,
problem.
because I'm like, man, I got to give these away and I get nothing.
Well, we'll
What's your favorite color, and we'll make sure you get one.
I
that's
love
right.
that. I appreciate y'all.
Yeah, that's
So
right. You
very
just
much.
have to name your favorite colors, so they know what to.
Blue. I like blue and I like green.
Okay, cool,
I was
cool.
born
Oh,
in May,
that's
so my
good.
favorite color is emerald. But I also like blue pretty much too. So
Hmm.
yeah.
We'll be
Cool,
in
cool.
touch for more
Ken.
details about size and such before we begin.
I'll be waiting with bated breath.
Well, don't bait your breath too much. You keep doing what you're doing, Gwendolyn. You are amazing. You have found your purpose on this planet, and we are so fortunate to have you in our locality.
Oh, thank you
Mhm.
so much.
I
Thank
want
you
Ken.
to,
very much.
yeah, I
Ken.
want to say,
Yeah.
Down here in Florida, I
You're in
had to go.
Florida?
I'm in Florida. I
Oh
had to go
my.
and beg organizations to give quilts to.
Why?
Yeah,
That's
Hmm.
crazy.
it's crazy.
Don't beg them, give them to me.
Yeah, come back to Michigan, Marshall. Your place is here. Ken, you wanted to say something.
yeah, I did, because one of the things that Gwendolyn was saying that just struck to me is if you have something you can do that you can try to contribute. I write postcards. I get people that I think, need to be reminded about voting opportunities. But what I'm thinking is one of the things you mentioned was writing cards of thanks. And I'm really good at printing and writing. And if you have a spot for me, I'm volunteering for that.
I sure do.
There it is.
Absolutely. I know how to get in touch with you, Ken.
That's right.
Thank you very much.
We're coming near to the end of our time together. Gwendolyn and all of you, thank you for joining. And I'm really glad you joined, because it just wouldn't have been the same without you.
No.
If only Gwendolyn and I would have been here. And before we let you go, if you would allow us, and I don't know if I ever even introduced myself, because I figured you all know me, but maybe you all don't know me. I'm Reverend G, and I'm the minister of the Unitarian Universalist Church, which is in Portage. And I just would like to share with you a few upcoming programs, if you don't mind. So Deborah is going to share the screen with you, so you see what's happening. And
Well,
all right,
yeah.
so yeah,
There's
go, Deborah.
Oh, yeah. First of all, there's the next Thoughtful Thursday, and then we can go into the upcoming.
Yeah, the next Thoughtful Thursday is on the 23rd of January, 7 p.m. It's going to be again on a Thursday. And our guest will be a musician, a New Thought musician, Sue Riley. She wrote songs that we actually do sing in our church. And she also, she's a trailblazer. She fights hard for musicians' rights and for the rights to be paid. And in that regard, she established a licensing company. And anyway, so she's going to be our next guest, and I would love for you to attend. She's another very inspiring person. Next. Okay. Eric over here, who has asked a few questions and made a few comments, he leads a mindfulness class. And the next one coming up is on the 23rd of December from 7 to 8 p.m. And if you can, you see on the bottom here, you see our website, uucommunitychurch.org. So you can go there and you will find his program there, and you can register for his class. Then we have a few of congregants started a small theater company. And they put on plays every so often, and they are putting on a Christmas play, and it is called A Night Before Christmas. And as I understand, there's a little bit of a twist on that story, so it's not exactly as you are used to it. And it is going to be this coming Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And because it's not, I think it's 6 p.m. on Friday. I don't know about Saturday and Sunday, what time they are. But again, you can find that on our website. And also you can buy tickets. You can also buy tickets at the door. Candlelight Christmas Eve, that's December 24th, 5 p.m. And that is always just a lovely time for us to come together, to have an hour of inspiration and just togetherness. So that's at 5 p.m. at the church on Christmas Eve, and everything you can also, as our services are also available on Zoom. So please come, and I will be officiating at that service. And then we have a tradition here at UUCC. At the end of the year, the last Sunday of the year, we have a burning bowl ceremony. And that is, we just look at our at the year past, and then we think about the ways that no longer serve us or may have never, ever, ever served us. We identify those, we write them down, and then we burn them. We actually burn them in the fire. We give it up. And sometimes we give the same thing up year after year after year, until one year we might notice that we no longer have to, because it's just done. We let go of that one. But we are going to have our burning bowl ceremony December 29th. Our services are at 10 a.m. And if you would like to come, please do. And that's it for our upcoming events. And thank you so much. Gwendolyn, thank you so much. We are so proud of you. And I hope you warmed up a little bit, because I'm sure you were quite cold there at the ribbon cutting ceremony. We're proud of you.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the opportunity, and I look forward to seeing you all in the new year, if not before. Have a happy holiday.
You too. We're grateful for all that you do. And, it just goes to show that one person can make such a huge difference, and you sure are. So
I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming. Have a wonderful evening. Bye.
Bye.